Where should Saturn not be placed in your chart? It is very important that a karmic planet like Saturn should be placed in a very good house in your chart. So, what are the bad and good houses for Saturn? So, let's have a look at those houses which are not good for Saturn. And during those periods in which if Saturn is placed in those houses, there will be ill and malefic effects of Saturn. So, let's see that. So before going into houses where Saturn does well, let's have a look at the houses where Saturn does not do good. Okay. Saturn in the ascendant. If you look at this first sample horoscope, this is an example of a Libra ascendant. It can be any ascendant. If Saturn is placed in the ascendant, then it is not good. Why? Because ascendant represents you as an individual. What is your personality? What is your way of thinking? All those things is what the ascendant represents. If Saturn is a planet which is karmic, when it goes into a malefic planet, goes into your ascendant, it affects the quality of your life. It affects the quality of your thinking and it affects the quality of your living. So you can generally see that people who have Saturn placed in their ascendant have a major struggles in their life, both financially, personally as well, throughout their life. So ascendant Saturn is not good. Similarly, I've given examples of Capricorn ascendant and Aquarius ascendant because these are all own houses. What most of the astrologers say, Saturn placed in its own house is good. Okay. But in which house should it be placed? Should it be placed in the ascendant? Definitely not. So Capricorn and Aquarius ascendant with Saturn placed in the ascendant is not good. Generally, in any ascendant, for any ascendant, Saturn should not be placed in the first house. Next. The Trikon houses. Trikon houses are the 1, 5, and 9. So first house we already saw. The fifth and the ninth houses are called Trikon houses. So Trikona houses are the most auspicious houses. Because what does the fifth house indicate? Fifth house indicates your Purva Punya Sthan, your children. It indicates your creativity, your intellectual ability and all that. Fifth house is all the and the creative things that you do in your life. So Saturn placed in the fifth house is not really good. And ninth house is your Bhagya house, your ancestral house, your higher learning, all that. So when Saturn goes into the ninth house, that is also not good. And ninth house mostly indicates your father, right? So your relationship with father then needs to be seen carefully when Saturn is placed in the ninth house. Saturn placed in the fifth house, since fifth house indicates children, so fifth house Saturn is also not desirable. So what, as much as I've seen, fifth house Saturn people generally tend to have a girl child, a female child, and most of the when the dasha of Saturn starts, when Saturn is placed in the fifth house, there are good chances of them being separated from their child. You need to look at the horoscope carefully because it could be a reason for the child could be going for a higher education and they have to stay away from home. So this is one good reason. For other inauspicious things are also there. So fifth house Saturn is still not good because Saturn disturbs the house in which it is placed, disturbs the karakattvas of that house. When Saturn is placed in the ninth house, as I said, relationship with father, relationship with your uh, ancestral house, ancestral property, your place, the ancestral place, and all that. So those things will be under problem. Okay, and the most important thing, Saturn placed in the eighth house. One good thing about Saturn being placed in the eighth house is there is good longevity. Longevity is good. The person lives longer, generally crossing 65 to 70 years. But when the dasha of Saturn starts, that person experiences all difficulties like accidents, operations. Only thing is that he's still alive, but the person undergoes all the various things which he wouldn't have wanted to undergo being alive for a longer duration. So Saturn being placed in the eighth house affects affects his health to a greater extent. And when Saturn is placed in the eighth house, directly aspects the second house. Second house is what your income, family. When Saturn Dasha starts, that person will have problems related to his monthly income, your income from his job or business, whatever, and then uh, disturbances in the family life also. So 8th house Saturn is also not very desirable. The only good thing is the longevity of the, it increases the longevity. So it gives minimum guarantee to give longer life to that native. Okay. So what are the houses in which Saturn can be placed? So what are the houses where Saturn will have less malefic effects to the person? Because any house Saturn places, it will disturb that house. But we can give some minimum guarantee saying that when Saturn is placed there, Saturn will not disturb that much. So what are those houses? So I have given an example of a Virgo ascendant here again. So Virgo ascendant, it can be any ascendant. Saturn placed in the third house. So we in astrology, we have something called Upachaya houses. Upachaya houses 3, 6, 10, and 11. Upachaya houses are good for malefic planets like Rahu, Saturn, Mars, Ketu, and all that. When Saturn is placed in the third house, sixth house, 10th house, 11th house, even 12th house also you can consider. Saturn should not be connected to an ascendant in any way. Saturn placed in the Kendra house is also good, but Saturn is placed in the 7th house, it will directly aspect the ascendant, which is not desirable. So Saturn placed in the 10th house is okay. Only thing is that when Saturn is placed in the 10th house, the native may have difficulties in starting his own business. If he's going to be in a job, then no issues. 10th house Saturn is still okay. 6th house Saturn is also desirable because 6th house indicates your debts, diseases, your enmity, and competition and all that. So when Saturn is placed in the 6th house, you will not be having much debts. So you will come out of the debts and you will not be having diseases. 6th house Saturn disturbs that house. So 6th house has a lot of malefic nature to it. When malefic planet goes into the 6th house, it delays or it disturbs the Karakotwas of that 6th house. So no diseases, no debts, and no competition to a certain extent. So I've seen many of the housewives having Saturn 6th house who have never gone for a job because 6th house also indicates your service, being in a job and all that. So that is one good thing about Saturn being placed in the 6th house. And 11th house, any planet that is placed in the 11th house would generally do good because 11th house is a house of gains, and it is 6th to the 6th house, right? So it will negate the qualities of the 6th house also. So 11th house is generally good because Saturn does well. Saturn, Mars, and all that, right? So only thing is that if you have an elder sibling and if your Mars is not well placed, then 11th house Saturn will disturb that relationship with the elder sibling. 12th house Saturn. So 12th house Saturn is again not connected to ascendant. Saturn is hidden basically. These are like we call it like hidden house 6, 8, and 12. Right. So 8th house Saturn is not that great. So 12th house Saturn is still good. 12th house Saturn only will disturb your investments. Right. If you are having a investments and it will make you a miser basically. You will not spend that much money. So in such a way, like 12th house Saturn is still good. Only thing is that your quality of sleep will not be that great. So that is the only thing about 12th house Saturn. So when Saturn is placed in all these houses, it generally does well. It will not affect to a certain extent. However, in order for the Saturn to do even better, a Jupiter, Venus, as I said in my previous video, a waxing moon or a moon with, even if it is a waning moon, if it has a certain level of luminance, if it is connected to Saturn in some way, it's really good. The Saturn Dasha will not disturb that native. So friends, thank you. If you have any doubts, you can get back to me. You can provide in the comment section. I shall be able to answer. Thank you.